Cooperative housing in Australia can conjure up images of the hotbeds of radicalism associated with the squatter movement of the 1970s, but the sector says the model has come a long way since then. Common Equity New South Wales is a not-for-profit organisation that supports cooperative housing in New South Wales. The group is pushing for a change in the state government's approach towards co-op housing to meet what it says is the growing demand for the social and economic benefits it can provide for people, including those from different ethnic groups. Biwa Kwan reports.
Why not?
It's a Sunday afternoon at the Kayap Bayan Cooperative in Sydney's southwest, and the residents are unwinding after a tough week. And it's all unfolding in the communal space, the car park that doubles up as a patio. Senna Morris is one of the founders of the co-op, catering to Filipino families.
We're glad that we have this common space, which is primarily used as a parking space. But then, Filipinos, we are very resourceful people. So we see that it's a huge area, and we need a huge area where we don't have to pay. We love gathering together as part of our way of relaxing after work.
Among the tenants enjoying the barbecue is single mum Ferlin Babak. She moved into the co-op last year, and she says before the move she thought she would end up homeless with her 2 kids as she struggled to pay the rent. She says she clearly remembers the moment she became a single parent following the death of her husband to liver cancer. It was a grief that was made worse by not having any friends or family here in Australia.
He passed away and I was 2 months pregnant at that time with my daughter, and so very, very hard for me. And then I'm just 8 months here in Australia, so I don't know about anything. So it's very hard for me.
She says being part of a co-op with neighbours from her home country has helped her to feel a sense of belonging in her new home in Australia.
We are very close because we're same Filipino. Especially when I'm working, I can ask my neighbour to leave my children to them, and then they'll be the one to bring them to school, because I don't have a family here. So I feel this housing here, Filipino housing, is my family already. They're already my sister, my brother, or my auntie. That's what, I treat them.
Under the Common Equity Co-op model practiced in New South Wales and Victoria, each tenant pays rent that is no more than 24% of their income, plus any Commonwealth rent assistance up to the market rent payable for the property. Regulation of the sector varies between states and territories, with state governments requiring the majority of cooperative residents to be on low incomes. Co-op tenants are selected by the individual co-ops themselves through community call-outs and from a central database. The criteria is based on the tenant's ability to fit the right income band, agreement to cooperative principles, and approval by existing members. But tenants also have to take on voluntary office bearer roles to manage the property under the oversight of not-for-profit organisations like Common Equity New South Wales. Ian Sinnott is the chief executive of the organisation. He says about half of the groups across the 450 properties overseen by Common Equity New South Wales are from culturally and linguistically diverse communities. And he says the co-ops meet a number of the needs of members of different ethnic backgrounds.
Families are changing. Some groups want to live together, but increasingly, perhaps with seniors as a good example, they want to live close to their families so they can access that level of support, speak their own language, share their own customs and culture. And what we do find is that as time progresses, there is a significant benefit for those people in terms of less dependence on health and social care services. They're able to have confidence and security in terms of where they live. And once those needs are met, they participate more widely within their community.
Trayapasa Subramaniam, one of the founders of the co-op for Sri Lankan Tamil seniors in Sydney's inner west, says the shared knowledge of culture and language among co-op tenants has been the key to building the support network that enables them to live outside nursing homes.
This has got sent to us, this Tamil Senior Citizens Housing Cooperative, because here we live with our community. If I say community, please don't misunderstand me, because all are Tamils here. And for any emergency, can't cook at all, to be frank. So if my wife can't cook, I had to depend on my neighbours.
He says the co-op was established to cater for seniors who found themselves in the difficult situation of wanting independence, but having difficulty breaking with the cultural and familial tradition of being cared for in old age by their children.
Earlier, I could have had with my children, but they are having other difficulties with their children in schooling and other things. Hence, I had to think of going out. Not that they chased me out, nor did they ask me to go out, but I had to think of relieving them of their problem.
But he admits co-op living is not for everyone.
All those who are working here are volunteers. So that's a hard job. You know, we are having some teaching problem at the start because most of us are growing old. We don't have young people to take over the work from the seniors. But gradually now we have got some youngsters. They have picked up their work and we are on the correct way. I think this should go on forever. We will do it. We will not hand over to anybody.
The take-up of the model across various states has been uneven across Australia, with the biggest clusters in South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales. Currently, co-op housing accounts for a small 0.05% of the housing sector nationally. Affordable housing expert Dr Tony Gilmore, who was recently commissioned by Common Equity to do a survey of co-op housing in Australia, says the model remains a hidden success story.
It's been a remarkably successful model on a moderate scale, but little is known about it. Surprisingly, there's been virtually nothing written at all about the Australian cooperative sector. Other parts of the housing sector in Australia have been written about in great detail, not the co-ops. That's really interesting. The model has been particularly successful in Victoria because I think of a lot of initial government support.
He says the housing affordability crisis has hit a critical turning point and that new government policy approaches will be required in the future.
We've stuck to the same old models for many, many years and we just need to have a bit of innovation. And we need to give different opportunities to different ways of delivering housing and write them up, research, see what works. If it works, let's do more of it, rather than it just being entirely a sort of state-subsidised handout approach.
As the sector expands, Common Equity New South Wales is pushing for property titles to be held by not-for-profit providers rather than state governments. Ian Sinnott from Common Equity New South Wales.
We're looking to receive title of a number of properties in our portfolio so that we can lever those properties and create greater equity for us to reinvest in growth. That decision is awaited from government and we would very much encourage government to view our proposals positively based on our recent successes.
Back in the Capit Bayan cooperative in Sydney's southwest, Miss Babak reflects on her journey over the past year. She says while she has not fully realised her dreams, she has come a long way from arriving in Australia as a stranger with no family or support network.
I'm already confident that this housing will give us all the opportunity that my family dream. My situation is still hard, so I don't know where I start, but I know one day I'll be there.